Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, it's been about a day and a half since this whole Will Smith event transpired, and for the most part, I wasn't really going to address this topic. A lot of other YouTubers and social commentators are milking this topic like crazy all over YouTube. Videos on this Will Smith slap have become completely oversaturated, and a couple days later, it's not as viral as it used to be. So I thought to myself, honestly, I don't really care about this. I'm just gonna stick to other topics. But then, something very interesting happened. Somebody who works for CNN opened their mouths, and well, of course, it's one of the dumbest things ever uttered on the internet, and this Will Smith slap topic went from I'm not going to cover it to absolutely I'm going to cover it. Because guess what? Apparently, according to this CNN analyst, Will Smith, being a very emotionally fragile egomaniac, unable to take a joke and walking up to Chris Rock and literally assaulting him on stage, apparently, get this folks, you will not believe it, except you definitely will. Apparently it's somehow Donald Trump's fault. Yup, you heard me right, I said that. That is literally what this CNN analyst is saying. And so of course, we gotta talk about this topic, and then we'll go into what happened at the Oscars. I'll give you guys my opinion. We'll talk about a couple different things, some hypocrisy. I'll probably just rag on Hollywood and celebrities for, 5 or 10 minutes. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, roll the tape. Alright friends, take a look at this. CNN analyst blames Donald Trump for Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars. This tweet from Asha Rangappa. So did anyone walk out after that happened? Or are we getting an independent psychological case study on how Trump got normalized? Now of course the headline here is a little bit misleading. Mrs. Asha Rangappa, to be fair, didn't blame Will Smith slapping Chris Rock on Donald Trump, but what she did do is what all of these CNN left-wing Twitter types do. Somehow make it about Trump. What to be outraged over after seeing Will Smith act like a terrible human being? Of course, Donald Trump. Nobody walked out after that happened. It must be Donald Trump's fault. We got so normalized to this type of stuff under the Trump presidency. That explains why the audience didn't take a stand against what they were seeing and walk out. Once again, it's Donald Trump's fault. But the question is it? This lack of decency that once again was on full display in Hollywood, is it Donald Trump's fault? Or is that just Hollywood? The answer is absolutely clear, it's just Hollywood. Now it is possible you can make the argument that this type of stuff started to come out on full display at the Oscars during the Trump days. I mean, we all remember this actor from Stranger Things advocating for essentially punching Donald Trump supporters in the face. We all remember the infamous Robert De Niro moment during the earlier days of the Trump administration. But was this fundamentally Donald Trump's fault? Or did Donald Trump and the media hysteria merely create a scenario where these terrible Hollywood human beings started to show who they really are? That's exactly what this is. A bunch of egomaniacal, fragile individuals who continue to act violently and condone violence. I mean, for Pete's sakes, this is a story from just yesterday. Sally Field says, if I see Ron DeSantis or Greg Abbott, I cannot be responsible for what I do. All we ever see from Hollywood is nothing but hedonism and violence and fragile egos. What they attack Donald Trump for is nothing but pure projection. Will Smith is probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but he's such a self-centered egoist that he can't take a joke without resorting to violence. And we're supposed to believe that these Hollywood losers are the epitome of virtue, the same people who are condescendingly lecturing us, while they themselves are nothing but terrible human beings. I mean, for Pete's sakes, Will Smith is 50-something years old? And the man completely loses his mind when faced with a joke about his wife's hair, and completely loses control of himself, walks on the stage during a massively publicized event being streamed to tens of millions of people, and assaults Chris Rock on that stage. This is why you can't take any of these Hollywood creeps seriously. They lecture you on wealth disparity and the rich needing to pay their fair share. Meanwhile, they're all taking advantage of tax loopholes and taking advantage of undocumented workers. They lecture you about the environment when they're all using more energy and more water, polluting the earth equivalent to 50 to 100 families with their massive yachts and flying all over the place and massive homes, luxury vehicles, vacation homes, you name it. They're nothing but a bunch of hypocrites. They look at you and lecture you about power dynamics. #MeToo, constantly virtue signaling about the vulnerability of women women when they all stood by and enabled people like Harvey Weinstein for decades? Not unknowingly, and not for a short period of time, it being the open secret in Hollywood for decades, and nobody's saying anything about it. These people are terrible, and this self-centeredness, this selfishness, and this self-righteous ego is at the core of left-wing liberal Hollywood politics. When they virtue signal about issues, it's not about the people they purport to represent. It's not about the issue. It's about them. It's about me, and more me. When they talk about free speech, but speech has consequences, what they mean is, you're not allowed to say things that make my feelings hurt. It was on full display during the Oscars with this whole Will Smith situation. When you're a self-centered multi-hundred millionaire and an individual with an ego the size of a mega yacht that you have docked outside of your home, well then your anti-free speech views start to make a little bit more sense. It's a classic case of rules for thee but not for me. Jokes are allowed, but if they target me, if they target my friends, if they target my family, or if they target any group that I use politically to make myself feel superior, then that's off limits. That speech is illegal. If it's a joke about Donald Trump's hair, well then it's perfectly fine. If it's a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, well, Chris Rock's face immediately becomes a punching bag. I mean, so many little hypocrisies. And another left-wing narrative that goes completely bust. What about this idea of white male privilege? Well, once again, it doesn't exist. After Will Smith walks up on the stage and assaults another man, not only is he not escorted out of the building, not only is he not immediately arrested, he is then brought back up on the stage and given an award. Could you imagine if Will Smith was Mel Gibson or literally any other less controversial white male actor? If anything, what we continue to see is Hollywood privilege, leftist privilege, and POC privilege as not only what happened in the audience and the reaction to the assault on Chris Rock, Donald Trump's fault, but the attack itself apparently wasn't even Will Smith's fault. While talking about Will Smith's behavior, don't forget to also talk about the system that helped create it. What system? Most likely it's poverty and racism and a white supremacist US government. That's what she's implying. But what it really seems to be is a life of entitlement, a life of absurd wealth, a man who has been surrounded by yes men his entire life, a man who has probably abused his power and abused everyone around him for decades. And the moment he is confronted with a joke, the moment he's the butt of a joke, or his wife becomes the butt of the joke, well, we all saw the reaction. It was absolutely cringy and should be condemned totally. Left-wingers always talking about accountability. Someone says, I voted for Donald Trump, and they are completely blacklisted, their careers destroyed. Will Smith literally walks on stage and assaults someone for making a joke like a fragile child. And you know what? His career is probably going to be completely intact. If there is any time where someone actually deserves to be canceled, it's Will Smith right now. But of course, more double standard and more hypocrisy. And somehow, this whole thing is Donald Trump's fault. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't know about you guys, but I am absolutely tired of the massive hypocrisy, the elitism, the ego, the terrible behavior, the hedonism coming out of Hollywood. And what makes it even worse is these are the exact same people telling us who to vote for and lecturing us about ethics. Give me a break. Hollywood is a scourge on society, culture, and the values that make a nation great. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share it as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. I'm gonna get back to work though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.